Bonsoir à tous, je vous demande de prendre place. Please take your seat, we are about to start the ceremony. Please have a seat, ladies and gentlemen. Bienvenue, bienvenue chez nous. Prenez place, on va bientôt commencer.
Just missed my Father Christmas act. I should have gone on a few seconds earlier. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening and welcome to the launch of the Global High-Level Panel on Water and Peace. I've come all the way from Kenya to be here with you this evening, so greetings from Nairobi. Mesdames et messieurs, bonsoir, soyez les bienvenus. Je tiens tout d'abord à vous présenter Monsieur François Munger, directeur du Geneva Water Hub.
Monsieur le conseiller fédéral, Votre Altesse royale, Monsieur le conseiller d'État, Excellences, chers panélistes, chers participants. C'est avec beaucoup de plaisir qu'au nom du Geneva Water Hub et comme secrétariat du panel, que je vous souhaite la bienvenue à cette cérémonie de présentation des recommandations du panel mondial de haut niveau sur l'eau et la paix. Mesdames et messieurs, dans de nombreuses régions du monde, le stress hydrique, la pollution et l'énorme impact du changement climatique compromettent le développement de ces régions et finalement de l'humanité. Le World Economic Forum positionne depuis plus de 5 ans la crise de l'eau parmi les risques mondiaux majeurs de la décennie. Mais l'eau est aussi un puissant outil de coopération. Nous savons que les ressources partagées motivent la collaboration, comme par exemple le partage des bénéfices, l'adoption de traités internationaux, la création d'associations d'utilisation de l'eau dans les bassins hydrographiques. C'est avec cette vision positive que le panel de haut niveau sur l'eau et la paix a été lancé le 16 novembre à Genève par 15 pays coparrains. Ce panel indépendant est formé de 15 personnalités du monde politique, académique, du secteur privé et de la société civile. Il a été chargé de formuler des recommandations pour que l'eau soit un instrument de paix et de coopération. Le panel s'est réuni à 4 reprises, en Suisse, au Sénégal, au Costa Rica et en Jordanie. Le Geneva Water Hub a organisé des tables rondes d'experts et des recherches scientifiques pour nourrir la réflexion et les travaux du panel en collaboration avec le Strategic Foresight Group. Moins de 2 ans après son lancement et sous la conduite du président du panel, Dr Danilo Turk, le rapport est terminé. C'est ce rapport qui sera présenté publiquement en première mondiale ce soir. Le défi pour l'avenir sera le passage des recommandations à l'action. Ce passage nécessitera votre mobilisation à tous et à toutes dans un grand courant et dans une grande mobilisation Blue Peace mondiale. Je vous souhaite, mesdames et messieurs, une soirée fructueuse et enthousiasmante. Merci.
Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you heard correctly. This is, we're in the midst of seeing history in the making. This is a world first. The Geneva Water Hub worked closely with the Strategic Foresight Group all the way in Mumbai, India. And to tell us something about them, I'm going to introduce Mr. Sandeep Vaslika.
Minister Bukhalter, Chairman Turk, Your Royal Highness, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. We are in the city of Geneva. Here, every day, international initiatives are launched. Several times, panels are formed. Many times, reports are presented. So what's so special about the launch of the report of Global High-Level Panel on Water and Peace, which is chaired by Danilo Turk, former president of Slovenia? This report is primarily about the relationship between countries on which share water resources and how to use this relationship for peace. So how to convert water from a source of crisis into a potential instrument of cooperation and peace. There are 3 billion people on the earth who live in shared river basins or shared lakes. So the recommendations of this report, if they are implemented properly and effectively and substantially, will impact potentially the life of 3 billion people, almost 40% of the people living on the earth, out of which at least 2 billion live in the developing countries of Asia, Africa, and Latin America. The recommendations deal with a whole range of issues which the chairman will present, but they are aimed at making real difference to the life of people on the ground. They are aimed at protecting water resources from terrorism, from violence. They are aimed at increasing the resources for transboundary water cooperation. They are aimed at improving the status of international law. So they are aimed at making real difference. And therefore, in the interest of the 2 billion people who live in shared river basins of the developing countries of the world, ladies and gentlemen, please congratulate the chairman of the panel, Danilo Turk. It's been a great honor, Danilo, for the Strategic Foresight Group to work with you. It's been a great honor, François Munger, the head of Secretariat of this panel, to work with you. And it's been a great honor, Minister Bukhalter, to work with the government of Switzerland. This morning, your team in the Federal Department of Foreign Affairs did magic. They organized a discussion on water and peace with our panel and the media inside the press room, and outside they organized water coming down from the heavens, the rains. So, but the whole world is not as privileged as Switzerland is, where you can have discussion on water inside the room and water falling from the skies outside the room. A lot of countries and a lot of continents, like His Royal Highness Prince Hassan will tell us, in Jordan and the Middle East, a lot of shortage of water, and sometimes this shortage of water is used to create conflicts. So what these recommendations of the panel will do is how to convert this vital resource of humanity, this source of our life, from source of conflict to source of peace. I will end with one line, one message. Whenever our scientists look for life on another planet, they look, whether it's moon or whether it's Mars or whether it's moons of Jupiter, they see, is there a water? If there's water, then they think that there can be life. So water is so essential to life. But I urge you, all of you, the distinguished leaders here and diplomats and others present here, before you start searching water on another planet, develop, conserve, and use the water on the earth most productively and in the best possible manner. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. It's been an honor to be with you.
It's always very interesting when you travel the globe to see how people respond. Now, in Africa, we're very regimented. When somebody says good evening, we all say good evening and bow. But tonight, I was told, my instructions, that it's going to be style décontracté. So I urge you to respond to my very silly and childlike jokes, otherwise I get very stressed. I would like now to introduce His Excellency Mr. Didier Buchalter, Federal Councillor, Head of the Swiss Federal Department of Foreign Affairs. And my first success is to get that out without making a mistake.
Thank you, John. Il y a à l'évidence une bonne humeur et un enthousiasme qui est de bon aloi et qui est un bon signe pour ce projet que nous lançons avec le rapport aujourd'hui. Mesdames et messieurs, chers amis, j'aimerais tout d'abord vous remercier très chaleureusement de votre présence, tout simplement, toutes et tous, ici, à Genève, dans cette maison de la paix. C'est une maison particulière. C'est une maison, on peut le dire, presque magique. Et c'est une maison, en tous les cas, utile. Et en quelques années, cette maison, elle est devenue un symbole, et elle est devenue aussi un point de convergence. Elle est un symbole, tout d'abord, parce que cette maison symbolise l'engagement de mon pays, l'engagement de la Suisse, en faveur d'un monde qui doit viser la paix et la sécurité. Et puis, elle est un point de convergence aussi, cette maison, car elle accueille la réflexion commune pour l'action commune, en faveur d'un monde qui veut se développer de manière durable et surtout qui veut penser aux générations d'après. Cette maison de la paix et cette cité de Genève, au jet d'eau mondialement connu qu'on a vu sur les images tout à l'heure, eh bien, forment un endroit au fond assez idéal pour la manifestation qui nous réunit aujourd'hui, pour le lancement de notre nouvelle action commune et pour faire de l'eau une véritable source de paix. Ladies and gentlemen and dear friends, conflict prevention, promoting dialogue and cooperation are key objectives of Swiss foreign policy. This is reflected in our commitment to the Maison de la Paix. It is also reflected in how we approach the issue of water. I'm therefore really delighted that today's event takes place in this venue of peace and inspiration. I'm grateful to everyone who has made it possible. Water is a Swiss foreign policy priority. Why? Because water is at the core of sustainable development. Because water is an essential factor when it comes to peace and security. And because there is a mounting global water crisis that risks undermining both development and peace. Water is rapidly becoming increasingly scarce and turning into a key global challenge of our generation and future generations. So Switzerland is committed to addressing the water crisis We have long worked to improve people's life by providing reliable supplies of drinking water and adequate sanitation facilities. We contributed to making water a goal of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, and we have developed our Blue Peace approach to promoting water cooperation with a view to preventing conflict and finding common solution on water for the benefit of all. The link between the scarcity of water and conflict, this link is well documented. Water-related issues have contributed and exacerbated conflicts in Syria, in Yemen, and elsewhere. Water has even been turned into a weapon of war, be it through withholding this water, contaminating it, or flooding. And competition for access to water is bound to grow given the growing demand of water, urbanization, ongoing pollution, and climate change. Despite the worrying development, water is only gradually emerging on the international security agenda. Cooperation in this field has been actually limited so far. It is our vision, it is Switzerland's vision, that water will be as firmly established as a peace and security issue on the political agenda as it has been recognized as a development issue. Our message is optimistic. While the risk of water turning into a major source of tension is real, there is much potential to make water a key instrument for cooperation and a driver for peace. The mutual benefits of good and common water governance in transboundary watersheds are enormous. They include more trust, better access to water and other basic services such as energy, agriculture, or health, and generally better conditions for sustainable growth. This is why Switzerland is committed to promoting transboundary water cooperation, strengthening hydro-diplomacy, and pushing to do more to leverage water to peace. We have engaged in regional Blue Peace initiatives for several years in Central Asia and the Middle East. I'm grateful to Prince Hassan from the Kingdom of Jordan for being with us today. In addition to this regional approach, we have initiated the Global High-Level Panel on Water and Peace. We have done so because we consider it essential that there be a global discussion on framework on how to deal with this water crisis and make water a key tool of preventing conflict and sustainable peace. When we launched the panel here in Geneva almost 2 years ago already, there was a sense of excitement and curiosity on how this endeavor would evolve. We just heard about the fascinating journey across the globe that the panel has pursued since, a journey that has led to both a report as well as a piece of music that is bound to become a strong and lasting symbol of what the panel and all of us who are supporting this panel seek to achieve. I wish to thank everyone who has contributed to this journey. First and foremost, I'm grateful to the panelists and their skillful chair, Danilo Turk. Thank you very much. You have come up with a substantial and invaluable report full of proposals that have the potential to shape the international debate. We also thank the 14 countries that together with us, with Switzerland, have co-convened this panel, and in particular Costa Rica, Senegal, and Slovenia, which are today's co-hosts. Our thanks also go to the Geneva Water Hub and Strategic Foresight Group, which has supported the panel, and to the composer and the musicians who we will hear playing the symphony later today. The key points of the report will be presented to you shortly. Let me just underline that Switzerland appreciates how the panel has laid out the challenges in a clear fashion and also come up with recommendations that are innovative, that are relevant, and that are action-oriented. On the issue of water in war, the panel points to the imperative of protecting water infrastructure and ensuring respect for international humanitarian law. This will have particular resonance here in Switzerland and in the international Geneva. And I wish to thank Christine Berly, Vice President of the ICRC, for her keynote address here today. Regarding the issue of water for peace, let me single out just 3 of the main important proposals that Switzerland intends to push. First, we consider facilitation, mediation, and hydro-diplomacy capacities for decreasing water-related tensions and preventing such conflicts to be key. The idea of an impartial clearinghouse for such activities, what the report calls a global observatory for water and peace, deserves to be pursued further, and why not here in Geneva? It would be most welcome. Second, we agree on the importance of confidence building through exchanging water data and developing common standards. Evidence-based decision-making is a vital step towards good and cooperative water governance, and an issue that we will continue to promote strongly. And third, finally, we agree that the provision of adequate funding for the promotion of collaborative schemes in transboundary water infrastructure is essential. The report lists a series of proposals, and it is vital that we make progress in this field as fast as possible. The report of the panel, ladies and gentlemen, that we are launching today is not the end of this journey. In many ways, it is the beginning of our common efforts to advance global blue diplomacy. Switzerland is committed to promoting this report widely. Our goal is to foster broad discussion on this recommendation and to work towards a roadmap on moving from ideas to joint action. Our first destination will be New York, where we will present the report in the UN High-Level Week next Monday, mainstreaming the issue of water, peace and security firmly in the UN context is vital. And I agree with the panel that the time is ripe for a Security Council resolution on this issue. After New York, further destinations will follow. At the same time, we want to anchor the issue of water, peace and security in Geneva. And I am pleased that we can now also sign a Memorandum of Understanding with the University of Geneva, which will become the new home of the Geneva Water Hub, a home that will allow the Geneva Water Hub to develop further into a center combining services for hydro-diplomatic action together with think tanking and research. It will also be a home that will reinforce the continued engagement of my country, Switzerland, to transforming water into a force for peace, into a source of peace. Thank you very much and very good evening. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we just heard about a memorandum of understanding, of which more later. But we are, after all, in Geneva, so it falls to us as a matter of courtesy to let our host speak to us. Et maintenant, je vais changer de langue. Ça présente des problèmes pour nous autres qui sont foncièrement anglophones, parce qu'on apprend des règles de grammaire. Donc, il faut que plus le subjonctif, espérer que plus l'indicatif, il semble que plus l'indicatif, mais il me semble que plus le subjonctif. Donc, mais le plus dur, c'est de garder les gendres. Est-ce une maison, une maison? Alors, si je fais des fautes, corrigez-moi après. Mesdames et messieurs, je tiens à vous présenter le président du Conseil d'État de Genève, M. François Longchamp.
Monsieur le conseiller fédéral, Votre Altesse royale, Mesdames, Messieurs, c'est un privilège de vous accueillir tous aujourd'hui à Genève, dans une ville qui est connue pour son symbole, le jet d'eau, dans une ville qui est au bord d'un lac qui est le plus grand lac européen, dans une ville qui a sur le plan politique des relations fortes évidemment avec ses pays voisins, avec le pays voisin, la France, et dont je puis dire que le premier acte diplomatique politique que Genève ait fait avec ses voisins était précisément celui d'une signature d'un accord sur la gestion de l'eau, démontrant à d'autres époques déjà combien l'impact de l'eau, combien la nécessité de pouvoir la gérer sur un plan politique aussi était quelque chose d'essentiel. Avoir choisi, Monsieur le conseiller fédéral, Genève pour cette occasion est évidemment un lieu qui est le plus adéquat qu'il soit. C'est à Genève que les premières alertes sur les changements climatiques ont été, grâce à la présence de l'OMM, grâce au GIEC, lancées, et à ceux qui doutent encore de la réalité des changements climatiques, des conséquences politiques qu'elles engendrent. Je les invite à suivre de près, à lire de près, à regarder ce que cette organisation internationale, depuis Genève, a produit depuis un certain nombre d'années comme alerte qui, malheureusement, au fil de l'écoulement du temps, ont démontré qu'elles étaient justes, qu'elles étaient même peut-être en dessous des réalités que nous sommes aujourd'hui en train de traverser. Accueillir aussi dans une capitale comme Genève, qui est la capitale humanitaire et la capitale diplomatique européenne et mondiale, avec la présence de l'Organisation des Nations Unies, siège humanitaire et lieu des premières conventions de Genève qui ont scellé le sort de la Croix-Rouge internationale. Ensuite, capitale diplomatique depuis le début du XIXe siècle, c'est avoir la conscience du fait qu'aujourd'hui, les questions liées à l'eau sont des questions éminemment politiques, éminemment diplomatiques, et qu'elles nécessitent précisément un lieu et une capacité de pouvoir les négocier, de pouvoir transiger, de pouvoir les discuter, parce qu'aujourd'hui, chacun a conscience que très probablement, si le pétrole a été une arme politique pendant un certain nombre d'années, probablement que ce sera désormais l'eau qui sera peut-être à la source des potentiels déséquilibres et, le cas échéant, des potentiels mouvements migratoires que nous observerons sur notre planète. Merci, Monsieur le conseiller fédéral, d'avoir choisi Genève. Je me permettrai, devant nos invités étrangers, une dernière conclusion, celle de vous dire que c'est probablement la dernière occasion publique qu'il me sera donnée au nom du gouvernement genevois de vous remercier pour votre action. Vous quitterez vos fonctions, comme chacun le sait, à la fin du mois prochain. J'aimerais dire que la Genève internationale, ces organisations dont nous venons de parler, d'autres encore, ont pu bénéficier d'un soutien sans faille et inconditionnel de votre part. Vous avez joué la politique étrangère de la Suisse telle que nous l'aimons, celle d'une politique de bons offices, celle d'une politique où l'on cherche à régler les problèmes plutôt qu'à les causer. C'est en cela que la Suisse a un rôle à jouer, c'est en cela que Genève se doit être un lieu d'accueil. Et j'aimerais publiquement, devant nos invités étrangers, au nom du gouvernement genevois, profiter aussi de cette occasion qui m'est donnée pour vous en remercier chaleureusement.
Mesdames et messieurs, Monsieur Yves Flukiger, recteur de l'Université de Genève. Et je vous prie, monsieur, de rester sur scène après votre petit discours.
Monsieur le conseiller fédéral, Votre Altesse, Monsieur le président du Conseil d'État, Excellences, Mesdames et Messieurs, chers collègues, c'est pour moi un très grand privilège d'être ce soir avec vous pour célébrer le lancement de ce rapport qui, sans nul doute, va marquer l'avenir de notre planète. Par son implication au sein du Geneva Water Hub, l'Université de Genève est très fière d'avoir contribué au rapport qui est présenté aujourd'hui. First of all, I would like to congratulate the members of the panel for their report. I wish for their recommendation to find a global eco that will, I hope, contribute to enable the water resources to act as an instrument of peace. This report perfectly illustrates the importance of a close cooperation between different communities, such as the political circles, the practitioners, the international organization, be it governmental organization or non-governmental organization, as well as a member of the scientific community. In this respect, our university wishes to play an active part by producing high-level scientific research, by contributing to the education and training of the young people, but also by establishing bridges between the scientific and the political communities. The Memorandum of Understanding that we are going to sign today illustrate this commitment. Ce mémorandum formalise aussi un partenariat établi depuis 2012 avec la Direction pour le développement et la coopération suisse. Ce partenariat a contribué à la création du Geneva Water Hub, une plateforme de compétences traitant des questions hydropolitiques qui constitue aussi un laboratoire d'idées, combinant approche politique et approche académique, dont les 4 missions principales sont la formation, la recherche, les activités de think tank et la plateforme de mise en réseau. L'Université de Genève a développé depuis de nombreuses années de très solides compétences sur l'analyse des problématiques de gestion de l'eau dans un contexte international. La plateforme pour le droit international de l'eau douce, la chaire UNESCO en hydropolitique et le Geneva Water Hub sont d'autant d'équipes qui contribuent à cet axe stratégique pour notre université et pour Genève. Le mémorandum que nous allons signer ce soir symbolise enfin la création d'un nouveau centre en hydropolitique à l'Université de Genève qui participera à porter et à diffuser les très importants messages délivrés par les travaux de ce panel que je remercie ici publiquement. Je souhaite aussi remercier toutes celles et tous ceux qui ont rendu possible les récents développements très prometteurs de ce domaine, aussi important pour le développement humain que pour la gestion de l'eau. En particulier, je souhaiterais remercier ici un ami proche de l'Université de Genève, représenté aujourd'hui dans le public, pour sa généreuse donation qui nous a permis de soutenir nos ambitions. Merci infiniment de votre attention.
Monsieur Flutiger, on passe à la signature du mémorandum. And now I'm going to pretend that I'm one of those BBC people who do the sort of Queen's birthday. And I'll talk you through what's happening. But I think you need a slightly deeper voice. So now they're going to sign the document. Earlier on, you heard the announcement by the rector of the university that they're going to create a special department at the university dedicated to research and education, and he was particularly pleased about a grant. Oh, they finished signing. They finished signing. This is one signature. They're looking up at the camera just in case they get their pictures in the newspaper tomorrow. And now, I'm sure there's going to be some handshaking going on. Okay. Right. Maybe if I switch in, I could be in the picture too. Okay, thank you very much. We move on. It's a long program, 2.5 hours. We've heard her name before, Miss Christine Berly of the ICRC, if you would.
Monsieur le Conseiller fédéral, Altesse, Mesdames et Messieurs, c'est un plaisir particulier pour moi d'être parmi vous aujourd'hui ici, dans cette merveilleuse maison, et puis de prendre part à cette signature du MOU. Je pense que la paix bleue et la croix rouge, ça va très bien ensemble. Excellencies, the issue of how a lack of access to water can fuel conflict and threaten peace and stability has at last been getting the serious international attention it merits. The work of the Global High-Level Panel has been critical in this regard. The report being launched today, with its wide-ranging practical recommendations, is an important milestone in the quest to transform water from a catalyst of conflict into an instrument of peace. The International Committee of the Red Cross ICRC has also consistently highlighted this issue through our work in armed conflicts and other situations of violence. And like the global high-level panel, our main interest in highlighting the challenges is though that we can find solutions. Our ultimate aim is to better protect conflict-affected people. Ensuring an effective, relevant, and sustainable response to water-related needs is a key aspect of this. Water-related problems are both a cause and a consequence of contemporary armed conflict. Water is a vital resource and a precious commodity. The more scarce it is, the more valuable it becomes, and the most potential it has to stoke tension and conflict. The way in which wars are fought today has profound and far-reaching effect on the needs and vulnerabilities of people and communities. Access to safe drinking water is one of the most fundamental needs. In today's global environment, multiple armed conflicts tend to be more protracted, more fragmented, and more urbanized than at any other time in recent history. Some 50 million people living in urban areas face protracted and repeated armed violence. These armed conflicts are typically characterized by a widespread lack for even the most fundamental rules of international humanitarian law. These include direct attacks against civilians as well as on infrastructure and services such as hospitals, schools, water treatment plants, and water systems. In some cases, the indiscriminate use of weapons, many of them heavy or highly explosive, in densely populated urban areas, has equally devastating consequences. And even where IHL has not been violated, the conduct of war in many cases causes enormous damage with cumulative long-term consequences. The gradual breakdown of water, electricity and sanitation system, and the various services that depend on them, such as hospitals, is just one example. In many cases, development gains previously made are reversed. This has major practical implications for humanitarian response. Protracted, largely urban conflict naturally still requires humanitarian action to save lives and meet short-term needs. However, increasingly humanitarian action is also required to sustain basic services and infrastructure in fragile environments, provide different types of community support, and contribute to long-term socio-economic development. Maintaining urban infrastructure, such as water systems, which are large-scale, more technically sophisticated, and more interconnected than ever before, has become a major challenge of vital importance. This means we need to implement what we call a combined approach that prioritizes sustainable improvement and strengthening resilience above simply meeting urgent life-saving needs. Whenever possible, our operational focus is as much on means of survival as on simply survival. Partnerships are essential to this endeavor, primarily with national Red Cross and Red Crescent societies, but also with increasingly diverse stakeholders. The range and magnitude of humanitarian needs with which we are faced means we absolutely must seek more collaborative and innovative solutions with authorities, partner organizations, civil society, and the corporate sector, to name just a few. Just one example of this dual approach is in Iraq, where the ICRC has been present for almost 40 years during successive conflicts. For many years now, we have directly assisted the repair and rehabilitation of a water supply infrastructure by training staff and supplying spare parts and consumables to ensure service continuity. We have been able to meet urgent water needs in a number of IDP camps using trucked water from the main system. At the same time, we alleviate the resulting strain on the main system by upgrading the infrastructure in a number of towns, ensuring a more sustainable water supply for both displaced people and local residents. We also need to anticipate shock to essential urban services such as water, energy and sewage systems during active armed conflict. In places like Gaza, for example, the ICRC is working closely with the relevant authorities to evaluate the vulnerabilities and resilience of urban systems and preparing appropriate emergency contingency plans. This emphasizes of such activities is on mobilizing and capacity building rather than substitution. Also, the latter is sometimes necessary to meet needs. The current situation in Yemen is a stark illustration of what can happen when already weak water systems and other critical infrastructure and services effectively collapse due to armed conflict. The resurgence of communicable diseases, in this case cholera, affecting hundreds of thousands of people, can quickly become an avoidable disaster. In conclusion, I would reiterate some of ICRC's main recommendations to states with regard to water in armed conflict. Firstly, respect international humanitarian law and take into account the interdependencies of essential services such as water, health and electricity, and the cumulative impact of protracted armed conflict on essential water supplies for civilian populations. Secondly, recognize that dialogue on water needs between warring parties is critical and help to facilitate it. And thirdly, prioritize and support effective partnership between local authorities, service providers and humanitarian organizations to ensure resilient water services. Thank you for inviting the ICRC to this important event today. We look forward to the presentation of the report and also the discussions afterwards of the report. And we very much hope that it will lead ultimately to tangible improvements on the ground for those directly affected by water-related problems in armed conflict. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, in the second last of our formal speeches today, may I invite His Royal Highness, Prince Hassan bin Talal of the Hashemite Kingdom of Jordan.
Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. I think it was Ogden Nash who said, "The gentle art of saving face may yet destroy the human race." And as I look at the binary pathology of the crisis in Northeast Asia with the United States, as I look at the crisis of Israel and the Arabs, is it still a crisis? When we look at the crises between the Arabs and the Arabs, when we look at the crises to which you have referred, the successive speakers even taking us as far as Java, I think that the crisis that we are facing is an ethical crisis of us and the other. Whether that other is rich man, poor man, whether that other is ethnic, sectarian, tribal, our so-called Middle East region is an example of confused thinking. The Middle East North Africa region as a construct came together in a conference of that name in 1994, and it was noted at that time that losses of about $21 billion each year are caused by inadequate supply of water and sanitation. I served for 9 months as the advisor to the Secretary General on water and sanitation. That didn't mean that I inspected the 37th floor for its effective sanitation, but the concept was basically that poor management of water resources and sanitation means that 1% of annual GDP in conflict-hit states, those already hit by the binary pathology of conflict, the loss of as much as 2 to 4% each year, according to the World Bank water study in the conference in Stockholm, Sweden. By the way, I must thank both the Swiss hosts today and our Swedish friends for their continuous, persistent drive to host as a interested third party conversations that otherwise would not take place between us. We started in Montreux in 2013, and there were all the regional players of the Middle East at the technical levels, including Israelis, Turks, Iranians, Arabs, but unfortunately, all of this has withered away with binary pathology. Nobody is looking at regional creative commons. In fact, when we look at the current conflict and the migration crisis unfolding in the Middle East and North Africa, may I remind myself and those attending that we proposed, not a large figure, in 1994, $35 billion for a decade of infrastructure development from Morocco to Turkey inclusively to encourage the will to stay, to prevent the Mediterranean from becoming the Sea of Death. Today, of course, our failure to address water challenges, our failure to address the synonym of energy challenges, to develop desert tech, to develop desert trek, to bring water and energy to the marginalized and vulnerable communities, whether in Gaza, and let me say especially Gaza, or to Sana'a, Yemen, are a failure basically to address the central issue of sustainable development, and that is human dignity. We hear about security in terms of weapons of mass destruction, in terms of the war on terror, but what about preventing security in terms of human dignity? I have been asked to work with the World Food Programme on developing a program of zero hunger. And I don't know, in Yemen, where the country is reeling from more than 2 years of conflict, water supply networks serving its largest cities, as the earlier speaker mentioned, from a Red Cross point of view, I'd just like to say that 15 million people have been cut off from regular access to water and sanitation. Yes, we all sympathize with the live feed from Florida and from Texas. But what about the live feed from Bangladesh and from India and from Pakistan? What about the live feed from Syria, where the conflict is well into its 7th year and has frequently been used as a weapon of war? I'm referring to water, with pumps desperately destroyed and water sources contaminated, and another 15 million people in need of safe water, including an estimated 6.4 million children. This is not an academic meeting. It's certainly not a political meeting. Politicians are in a minority here. But what guarantees that politicians will listen to us any more than they listened to us when we launched in Switzerland in 1981 at the Henri Dunant Center a call for a new international humanitarian order? Henri Dunant wanted to make war more humane. I suggest that with water as a focus, we should try to wage peace rather than to wage war. And in that context, let me say that overall, 65 million refugees lack access to basic drinking water. So when I hear Peter Sutherland, Louise Arbour, Lloyd Axworthy talking about Refugee Council and the importance of identifying, I think one of the speakers spoke about residents. I think nationals possibly might have been a more expressive example of what we are suffering. We are the tiniest country, but at the same time, we are the largest hosting country in the world of refugees in percentage to population. From 1991, when we were 2.5 million people, we are now almost 11 million people. And as I said to you when we met in Amman, that is not because we are so brilliant in the bedroom or in the boardroom, but it is because the challenges are mounting as the result of our own open door policy. I also want to say that this cannot continue. The resilience that we speak about, the investment in human dignity, has to move from intra-independence, I respect your identity, I hope you respect mine, to regional ethics, the common good of the greatest number. I just hope that endangered specimens of faulty water systems or endangered specimens of demographic tsunami, as is happening in East Africa, can somehow find common cause. When we look at Alain Gachet and his discovery of a lake larger than Windermere in your Kenya, Mr. Moderator, Lake Turkana, we are told, at the southern tip of the Great African Rift Valley, is possibly a source of water which might link through the Jordan Rift Valley all the way through to Turkey. So we are actually one world. We're not so far away from each other. The promotion of transboundary cooperation across regions is a step away from binary pathology and a step towards activating creative commons without which sustainable development goals will not be achieved. Thank you all very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like now to introduce the panel, and I want to share something about the wonderful bit of lateral thinking which arrived at the seating plan. It's wonderful. And it's simply that so that I can remember these gentlemen, I'm going to start off with the chairman of the panel and one of his vice chairs, and then produce them in order by country, so that when I see them, I can know who they are. So I'm not doing this to make them feel as if they can't count up to 10. But on chair number 1, Mr. Danilo Turk, chairman of the Global High Panel on Water and Peace. And thereafter, if you'd all go up and find yourselves a chair, if you would. Table number 2, Mr. Quesada. Table number 3, Mr. Cheta. Table number 4, Ms. Mora Pineda. Table number 5, Mr. Taron. Table number 6, Mr. Gallon. Table number 7, Mr. Hammer. Table number 8, Mr. Shalash Naj. Table number 9, Your Royal Highness, if you'd go back up, please. Table number 9. Table number 10, Abdelaziz Amzian. Table number 11, Mr. Quinn. Table number 12, Mr. Fernandez. Table number 13, Madame Boisson de Chazurne. We have apologies from Monsieur Mansour Faye of Senegal, another vice chairman, and also from Mr. Yerlan Nasinbayev from Kazakhstan. So, oh, how wonderful. Right. Here, ladies and gentlemen, we have Mr. Danilo Turk. Here we have Mr. Alvaro Quesada. Here we have Mr. Thor Cheta. Here we have Madame Claudia Mora Pineda. Here we have... Oh, no. Stay put. Stay put. I know who you are. Your Royal Highness. Here we have Mr. Tarand. Here we have Monsieur Gallon. Here we have Mr. Solesh Naj. Here we have Mr. Hama. Here we have Mr. Amzian. Here we have Mr. Quinn. Here we have Mr. Fernandez. Here we have Madame Boisson de Chazour. Please a clap for my panel. Thank you. Now's the time when I ask them some nasty questions. I think that I'm going to start with you, Your Royal Highness. I was listening carefully to what you said, and you talked about a binary pathology. I don't know whether, having said what you said, whether you as an individual have cause to be optimistic and or pessimistic, and if so, why? I don't think this is going to work. We need a handheld mic so that we don't have. We've got to.
I've got it under control. Thank you. I want to say that I'm optimistic because I feel that the majority of people are pro-peace, pro-change, pro-evolution. I feel pessimistic, as I mentioned, when a Swiss lady asked me some time ago. She said, look, excuse me, it's a really embarrassing question for me, but may I ask you, please don't be offended, are you really an Arab Muslim? I said, yes, madam, I am, if I'm anything. But why the embarrassment? She said, because you're normal. So I just said to her that, you know, we are 1.5 billion people in the world, maybe after BRICS, the second largest grouping of people in the world. Assuming 300 million of us are barking mad, doesn't that leave the opportunity that some of us might be a little normal? I am pessimistic when I feel that the imperialist design is continuing to segment us, to fragment us, to create a situation in our region where you have the black of the hydrocarbons and the green of the Fertile Crescent. It is about time, like Benelux, that we developed an intra-independent relationship, not crumbs from your table, the rich and the poor, but a complementary, cohesive drive for stabilizing of the region. The money is spent on buying weapons. In one session of Muslim leaders with Mr. Trump a few months ago, if a percentage of that had gone into a blue fund, which we are speaking about today, might have started a new dynamic. The money is spent in Hajj, into the pockets of private sector individuals in tens of billions, if spent on the creation of a zakat fund internationally monitored by a competent Standards and Poor AAA association, could make an institutional change in our culture, from a culture of destructiveness to a culture of creative human dignity.
Thank you very much indeed. Now, two special requests. One is, would you be so kind as to limit your interventions to, how many seconds are there in a minute? 60. So our major rubric is going to be water and peace, and that's why we're here. And so that you can have a wee bit of time to think, I'm going to ask, if I may, call you Mike, or Sir Mike, or whatever you wish, but would Mike do? Mike? Yeah, why not? It's décontracté. So, Mike, I'd like to set you up and further to speak about political stability. And I'm picking on you because you're an African. I've worked that out. So we tend to get excited about dealing with each other with conflict. Water and peace and political stability. Summary comment in 60 seconds, sir. And if you perhaps
Thank you. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Let me say that as a politician, my basic responsibility is to ensure the improvement of the socioeconomic circumstances of the people that I lead. And you all know that the only way that fundamental goal can't be achieved is when you have peace and security. As we heard most of the speakers who spoke, everybody is talking about water being a potential for conflict if it is not managed properly. So as a politician, I must be concerned about management of water courses. And it's against this background that I would call on this August gathering. That's about time that we take deliberate and organized attempt to solve the problems of the future by taking action in the present. It is against this background that is well-crafted, very insightful, very educative, very informative, thought-provoking and intellectually stimulating document that lies ahead of us now would have to be given a full meaning. It's about time that we move from politics to policies, as His Royal Highness has always said. Time is not on our side. Let us move our people. Water has the potential of moving our people, but we can move it in the direction of peace. Let us do it. Let's do it together. God bless you all. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Turk, I hope you're listening carefully because using the powers given unto me, I want you to listen carefully to everybody and do a synthesis at the end. So some homework. Yeah, that'll get you thinking. I would like, again, I'm appealing to your strengths on the strength of my research before I met you, two gentlemen who might perhaps speak to us about water and peace and the protection of infrastructure. Monsieur Franck Galland, if you would be so kind.
Thank you very much. Mesdames et messieurs, je suis vraiment ravi d'être parmi vous. Pour tenir les 60 secondes, je vais quitter la langue de Molière pour parler dans la langue de Shakespeare, qui est toujours un peu plus courte. In order to strengthen the protection of civilians during armed conflicts, we strongly believe that we need to better protect water supply systems, as they are vital for local population, for refugees, and also for sensitive locations like hospitals. Within the panel, my colleagues and mine, under the presidency of Chairman Danilo Turk, worked very hard. We made extensive research on those issues, and we were driven to the conclusion that we needed to act, in fact, in two directions. The first one is a strategic direction. That's the reason why we strongly believe that the UN Security Council should adopt a resolution in order to better protect water supply systems in protracted conflict, as water is a strategic and vital asset of humankind. The second direction is a more tactical direction, and this is probably because of my military background. We really think that we need to promote water ceasefires during armed conflict. This is one direction. A second direction is to provide a platform for the support of humanitarian organizations before, during, and after a conflict, because there are a lot of data to share, a lot of intelligence to share about the destruction of water supply systems and the destruction of power supply systems, because you must know that without any power, we don't produce and distribute water, and we don't treat wastewater. So this would be a second tactical direction. The last one is to support the deployment, the quick deployment of military water specialists in peace operations in order to rehabilitate as quick as possible water supply systems as well as power supply systems. Now, let's make those ideas happen. This is all what I dream of. Thank you very much for your attention.
Mr. Amzian.
Bon, bonsoir tout le monde. I will try to tell it in English. So we have, in the panel, we have discussed this topic, and it was in the center of our discussion because it was very important. And we discussed about what is existing in the international water law, and however how is the existing international institutions enough to manage the problem, or we need something else. And now in the report you have many recommendations from the members of the panel. We hope they will be implemented, of course, but I think that the first thing is to make countries, especially the big countries, aware of that there is no interest for nobody to destroy water infrastructure. And I can't finish my 1 minute without saying something that, as I'm representing here Morocco, and I'm very proud to have been in this group, and I'm very proud to do work done, and thank you.
Thank you. Water and peace and intersectoral issues. Ms. Claudia Patricia Mora-Pineda.
Very good. Good afternoon, everybody. Water conflicts are also arising in intersectoral relationships and dynamics. For example, water and energy, water and agriculture, environmental degradation, water allocation. Thus, water governance is a major challenge as it involves various levels and interactions. Addressing such a complex situation must start by recognizing the need to achieve equity in terms of or in relation to use, allocation, as well as environmental sustainability. Therefore, our recommendations go to strengthen water governance by enabling participation at all levels, including stakeholders and civil society, developing information and data exchange from the very early stages of a project. Invest in water education and capacity building in knowledge, awareness, and best practices in water use and water cooperation. And replicating best practices in water, intersectoral water cooperation in order to start building global standards on water management. Thank you very much.
May I please call upon Mr. Andras Taron? And perhaps we can have the rubric Water and Peace and the Environment.
Thank you. I like 1 minute speeches very much. And if we speak about global environment, then I think the most important factor is climate change. You maybe all know that the distribution of fresh water is not good, and even it is going worse. It means that dry regions are getting drier, and the regions with a lot of rain, they are getting rain more and more. Another factor is freshwater resource on this earth is mostly in ice, form in ice. Our time now glaciers and also permafrost are melting with growing speed, which means that resources of fresh water are decreasing with too quickly. So, which is finally good news. It is that the most important glacier, it means the East Antarctica glacier, is maybe a bit growing. How to get the water from there to areas in water need, nobody technically knows yet, but maybe in the future mankind can create something. Maybe it is possible how to save some regions, but now Antarctic Treaty says that Antarctic natural resources we cannot use at all. So that's all from my side. Minute is gone.
Thank you very much. Mr. Thor Cheta from Cambodia. Water and peace and basin management.
Thank you very much. Good evening. When we are talking about the basin management, we really know how to manage, to use water. And the water we can manage in the countries. Some water are used in the regions. Especially like in the country, we easy to solve the problem whenever we use in the one country. And as like a country that we can organize well, we have our own people, our own cultures, our own population. It's easy for you to organize, to manage water. But whenever you organize water in the regions, I think it's not really easy because we have our own different cultures, different people, different language. So what we can do? We have to make a mechanism and cooperation between the country and the country. Especially like in some area, like in my country, Mekong, we use the water as a Mekong area. So we have a lot of country around Mekong River. That's why we have to do some strategy. We have to do some policy to use that water in the regions. So what we can do? We can make like a commissions. We can make an agreement between the country and country, and we can also looking for the dialogue from our country to help our country to get experience how to manage water in the country. That is how to I want to explain to you about water management. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Mr. Cholesnaj, water and peace and the power of data.
Thank you, John. Excellencies, the truth is very simple. There is no peace without sharing water. There is no sharing water without sharing data. The truth is very simple. If you don't measure it, you can't manage it. And this is particularly true in a transboundary context, whether you talk about river basins or you talk about aquifers. Data secrecy over the past many decades was a source of mistrust because they couldn't build up a joint vision, the upstream countries and the downstream countries. However, technology will change it. Over the past 30 years, there has been an incredible progress in remote sensing, in measuring hydrological processes on the ground and even under the ground by satellites. Every single day, we have 1 hexabyte data coming to the Earth. 1 hexabyte is 1, followed by 18 zeros. It's a pretty big number. Now, we have, ever since 10, 15 years ago, the computational barrier has been gone. We can process those data. So data secrecy over upstream countries and downstream countries will be gone. We have three-dimensional models of the terrain. We can measure the velocity of flow from the space. We can establish discharge. Therefore, upstream countries will never be again in the situation of blackmailing, so to say, the downstream countries by not sharing and providing data. The panel would like to urge the UN system, particularly UN Water, to take the lead in connecting the databases which many of the agencies have, whether they are on public health and water, on disasters and water, or on climate change and water. We need to have a global geo-referenced database upon which countries and member states could base their policies of cooperation in a transboundary context. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Water and peace and finance. Mr. Alvaro Umanya Quesada.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. I would like to thank the Swiss government and the co-convening countries for this great effort. It's been a privilege to serve. The right to safe drinking water and sanitation is recognized as one of the moral imperatives of our day, and by some as a basic human right. We must strive to make this right effective. And in order to do this, we need two key elements: political will and resources. No state is viable if it cannot provide drinking water for its population. And as we have heard many examples already, the roots of many conflicts today lie in water scarcity. Also, the root of migrations lies in water scarcity. Climate change is only making things worse and making the need to cooperate more important. When we have large infrastructure projects, we need to generate projects that are bankable, that is, that make economic and financial sense. But many of these projects finance only the infrastructure and not the cooperation component. And we feel that the cooperation component is key. And that's why we have introduced this concept of hydrodiplomacy that includes the scientific, the multiple stakeholders, governments, all working together, sharing data, sharing knowledge, and sharing resources. And that's what we need to make this happen. We are very happy to be presenting to you this report. And as the minister said earlier, one of the ideas in the financial area that we're introducing is the creation of a blue fund to finance hydrodiplomacy and water cooperation. And our partner, Pascual Fernandez, will present you with some of the details of how this blue fund might operate. Thank you very much.
Mr. Fernandez, if you would. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Blue Fund will provide financing only if 5 conditions are met. First, Blue Fund is for developing countries. This means is for the countries that are in most need of assistance. Second, is for projects related fresh water course sharing between countries, as lakes, as rivers, or as aquifers. Is for substantial projects, for projects with investment of more than $100 million. It's not for capacity building, no for institutional strengthening. Not because this is not important. Of course, these are priorities all in the cooperation in the field of water. It's because these areas are financed for other funds. To envisage the finance, to finance infrastructure projects, the Blue Fund, is not envisaged to finance infrastructure projects, but to ensure that interest costs and other related costs are covered. And finally, any project that seeks the resource of the Blue Fund needs to be approved by a multilateral development bank or another donor agency in advance. This will guarantee the technical quality of the project. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Now, I'm inviting the most unlikely Omani that you're likely to meet in your life, but he's an Irishman who works in Oman, and he's heard the word before, so he's a bit, I'm going to say from my notes, Mr. Kieran O'Quinn, water and peace and hydro diplomacy.
Well, thank you very much. Hydrodiplomacy at its core is the capacity of states to look at the potential of water and practically, it's a very practical thing to build peace from that, to look at the potential and build from it within a diplomatic context. It is not about academics talking to academics, NGOs talking to NGOs. The operating system is the state or the state builder, where a state doesn't exist. And that's the context we're looking at, that responsibility of the state to take the potential of water and turn it into a reality. And that's a peace accord, that's the absence of war. We looked at three things. We looked at the most common form of multilateral water cooperation, which is joint water management. And we asked, why does some work and why doesn't? Because when done wrong, it leads to dependency. When done wrong, it can create an unfair power relationship. And when done right, it can do amazing things in terms of peace. So why does some work and some doesn't? Secondly, we looked at new models that we may use outside joint water management, using technologies like desalination, other water technologies, renewable concepts, looking at common threats to water, sea level rise, climate change, issues like this, which states could use as actual excuses to get together in a diplomatic way to build peace. And third, we looked at how can we sift from the good and the bad, from what works and what doesn't work, and communicate that diplomatically to diplomatic systems that are actually dealing with this. And just to give you an example, I've been approached by foreign ministries of 2 states in the last 7 days who are looking at a partitioned country that has no relations between North and South, and they're looking for an excuse, any minor excuse that they can get people together. And it could be climate change, it could be sea rise, it could be anything at all, and that's the context we're working in. And out of those 3 questions, we found there is no easy answer, but we came up with a very modest proposal, and that's to establish an observatory, a small organization to fit the niche that's actually there. There is a little gap there at the moment. We have a lot of good people around the world working on water and peace. They don't communicate very well with each other. There's a lot of duplication involved in it. A lot don't actually communicate very well to diplomatic systems. If I am a government designing a peace process, generally, it's year 0 every time I come to these processes. I have nobody to talk to. So what we're trying to do is form a very, very small group that can actually communicate to the diplomatic systems around the world, help them locate models that work, systems that work, and very, very practical initiatives that they can use water to help peace. So thank you very much.
Madame Boisson de Chazurne, I've left you last because you're a lawyer, and all of these things that we're hearing wouldn't happen if you didn't tell us something about water and peace and international law.
Thank you. Monsieur le Ministre, Vos Excellences, international law. Maybe you're going to think that, as our moderator, that it's not really that interesting. But believe me or not, our report is full of insights about the rule of law and the role that international law can play. I'm going to give you a few examples. I always say there is no sound cooperation without a good agreement negotiated by the riparian countries. And think about crisis in the world, think about water crisis. Very often it's because there is a lack of cooperation, there is a lack of confidence among the riparian countries. And one way to strengthen this cooperation is to have the riparian countries sitting at a table and discussing the terms of their agreement. what is interesting in international water law, and we have highlighted that in our report, is that all those agreements can be very different from one region to another one. It depends on the situation, it depends on the river, it depends on the political and economic situation. So that's one example. Another example where we have emphasized the role of law is with respect to armed conflicts and the protection of infrastructures that has been referred to by my colleagues. But we have stressed that the Geneva Conventions have to be respected, that the additional protocols, Additional Protocol 1, but also Additional Protocol 2, has to be respected. And we have also promoted means of compliance for ensuring that humanitarian law will be respected. So that's another example. And I'd like to conclude with Geneva. Geneva is the home of the United Nations, the European home of the United Nations. And at the United Nations in Geneva, we have the Secretariat of a Universal Convention, the Convention on Water Courses. And they are doing an incredible job, and they are helping states to negotiate agreements which is going to help them to forge sustainable relationships. And I have one hope, and I'm speaking in front of the minister, is that Geneva becomes the home also of another universal convention, the 1997 Convention on International Water Courses. So we would have Geneva with two universal conventions. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I have in a way saved the best till last. When you do what I do, you happen to rub shoulders with people whom otherwise you wouldn't need to. Now, I talked to the chairman all the way in Nairobi, and I was very much aware of the fact that I was talking to a man who was a former Assistant Secretary General of the UN. I was talking to a man who's been president of his country, Slovenia. But throughout this sort of long-distance conversation, I could sense an extraordinary patience, an extraordinary ability to take ideas on board, and indeed an extraordinary attention to detail. So I hope, sir, that you haven't heard everything that you were going to say in your speech, because I feared that people might just say what you've said already. But I wish I'd been on your panel, and I think perhaps that we could reserve the largest applause of all for Mr. Danilo Turk, Chairman of the Global High-Level Panel on Water and Peace.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Thank you, panelists. I'm not going to speak for more than 1 minute. I'm not claiming any privileges as chairman of the panel. And essentially, what I would like to say are two things. First, you just heard the whole panorama of views and comments on various substantive aspects of our work, and you could get an idea how wonderful this panel is. So maybe another applause for the panel as a whole would be appropriate at this moment. And to tell you how wonderful it was to chair a panel like this, it can be illustrated by one simple fact. We met in Geneva for the first time in November 2015, and we were given a task to produce a report within 2 years. Now we finished our work 2 months ahead of schedule, which almost never happens in the United Nations, and certainly never happens in many other places. So, you know, we are fast, but not hasty. We have done our homework properly. We have worked hard. I had no mercy with members of the panel when necessary, and I listened to everybody all the time. So the panel worked hard, and I think that they deserve a great deal of credit for the achievement. I'm not going to speak about individual recommendations or specific substantive aspects of the report, because I'm sure you are going to read this report carefully every day, every evening. It's not too heavy, you can read it in bed. So it's a report worth reading. But I would like to make one general comment, and that relates to the title of the report, We titled the report "A Matter of Survival." Water, ladies and gentlemen, is a matter of survival. Earlier this evening, we heard Madame Burley from the ICRC speaking about survival several times in her statement related to armed conflicts. In armed conflicts, obviously, water is a matter of immediate survival. But for all of us, those who enjoy the benefit of peace, water is also a matter of survival. We have to be aware of the drama of water, of the growing crisis of water, of the fact that within a generation, the need for agricultural production will require an increase of 50%. We will have to double the energy production by 100%, and all this will have to be done in conditions of climate change, which is reducing the amount of available water for these purposes. So we are really facing a crisis. Not immediate, it's not going to happen tomorrow, but it is going to happen if we are not active adequately. Now, this of course requires action, and the report will tell you specifically about various areas of action. But there is one underlying, perhaps philosophical concept here. We are all one big family. We are all one humanity. And when we are talking about water, we are talking about survival as our common dignity and existence. We have to be aware of this. Prince Hassan spoke about the need to overcome the binary logic which dominates much of our daily work, especially in diplomacy and politics. We have to understand that the real purpose of our work is common good. And in order to make this claim, this call, really strong and emphatic, we say this is a matter of survival. I would like to recommend you to read this report, think about action, support our recommendations, and as we move along with further action, we rely on you. We have presented some of the ideas to the UN Security Council about a year ago, but now tonight we are speaking to the international community more broadly, including the international civil society, youth representatives, scientific community, and we hope that we shall be heard. Now, this is the hope in the spirit of which we worked, and once again, I'm thankful to all of you for your attention, and I hope and I count on your support in the future. Thank you.
If, members of the panel, you will stay on stage, being looked at by us, I know that's pretty challenging, but please stay on stage. And now I have another wonderful, magical weapon that I have, which I haven't released up until now, and this is my wonderful yellow card. I couldn't present it to the people on stage up until this point in the proceedings because, as the English say, I know which side my bread is buttered. But from now on, it's a minute each, and from now on, I have to be cruel in order to be kind. We have 20 minutes to get to the rest of what's on the program, and at 7:10, wherever we've got to, we have to proceed to the Symphony for Water and Peace. So I hope you'll help me, because it could happen in 20 minutes. And if I show you the yellow card, it means that you're pushing it a wee bit. If I show it to you a second time, please stop wherever you are mid-sentence. So, a statement from the group of friends made by Hungary. If you would. Sorry, we're not, there's a bit of theatre going on. Please come up on stage. I know we're losing time, but we can't, the voice just can't come from nowhere. Yeah, we have to see you. Yeah, take the stage, it won't. Please do. Right.
Your Excellencies, distinguished members of the panel, ladies and gentlemen, I'm taking the floor on behalf of the Group of Friends on Water and Peace. The objective of the group, which consists of 40 countries, is to help shaping the global agenda by maintaining an open space for dialogue on multisectoral and transboundary issues relating to water and peace. Water scarcity is without a doubt one of the major vital challenges of the century. We have witnessed that mutual dependencies will only increase over time as regions and sectors exposed to water shortage rely more and more on waters controlled by others. Sustainable water resources management is key in this respect. In 2015, world leaders agreed on how to better position the international community to address some of the most challenging global issues. Water cooperation at all the levels is essential to support development in general, for achieving the sustainable development goals, for ensuring peace and security, and for promoting and protecting human rights, including the rights to water and sanitation. Therefore, we highly welcome the report of the Global High-Level Panel on Water and Peace, which offers a wide range of recommendations at local, regional, and global level. We will be pleased to raise awareness about the work of the panel in different fora in Geneva and worldwide. Geneva is the place where so many communities work together and where various actors with different perspectives allow broader impacts. The Group of Friends on Water and Peace will try to make the link with the different discussions taking place in Geneva in various fields, such as human rights, humanitarian affairs, environment, health, peace and security. On this occasion, we would like to thank the Geneva Water Hub for the tremendous work done by supporting the work of the panel and the work of our group. We hope that the work of the panel and our efforts will help to prevent water-related conflicts and promote cooperation around water. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much. Next on the stage, if you would, are two youth water ambassadors, starting with Ms. Bogatoj Sharipova and followed by Mr. Aminjon Abdullayev. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Bota Sharipova. I am from Kazakhstan, and I am here on the behalf of the youth from Central Asia. I am working for WaterSphere for the last 6 years, and in my daily work for this region, water is still source of potential conflict. And this June, International Secretariat for Water organized a workshop for youth in Central Asia who is working on water with the support of Switzerland. And there, we, representative of 5 countries, 2 upstream countries and 3 downstream countries, we drafted all together the youth vision on water for Central Asia. And there we could demonstrate that the youth has another point of view, that the youth can work together whenever we are upstream and downstream, and we could make the result. We could prepare the document which demonstrated the responsibilities which is taken by youth of upstream and downstream countries. So that was a very good result, and we stay committed that the youth can make changes, that we can do something to change the situation with water, with transboundary water in Central Asia. And so now I had the chance to to read the summary of the recommendations which were drafted by the high-level panel on water and peace, and I can say that the objectives and instruments which were presented there, they are very much relevant to the region of Central Asia. And now, if you let me, I would like to ask a question to the panelists regarding the recommendation. How can youth on Central Asia could be involved can contribute to the implementation of these recommendations on the local level?
Sorry?
Oh, yes.
Have you finished?
No, I asked the question to the panelists. I asked...
No, well, please, panelists, don't answer the question. Don't answer the question. I'm sorry. Sir.
My name is Amin John. I'm from Tajikistan. I'm very happy to be here in this remarkable event. I'm working in the water and sanitation project for several years, and we are meeting the communities and the people during our everyday work, which are facing the water-related issues, the problems, the challenges they have in their everyday life. And they are very relevant to the highlights made by the panelists according to the global high-level report. And I think the youth can contribute on this following the highlights of the report. I also was the member of the youth network organized by International Secretariat for Water in Astana. And I will bring a small example from my own experience. There is a community in Tajikistan which is using the water from the source of the water is located in the different country, the neighboring country, and the people of this community have to fight for their everyday water with the people of the neighboring country in order to have the basic needs of water to use for drinking, for preparing food, for some irrigation. And this is the small example of the transboundary conflicts which are present in our region, in Central Asian region. And we want to case study a lot of these kind of issues and maybe bring to the panel or bring to the group of people to find a solution, good practices from worldwide to improve the lives of the people in our countries. Thank you.
Thank you. Do sit down. Sorry to be so rude. We'll come back to your question if there's time before 7:10, I'm sure. Otherwise, maybe you can waylay one of the panelists and ask them directly. Ladies and gentlemen, I received special request by responses from the co-convening countries, and by the deadline that I issued, I had 4 replies. They were from Senegal, Spain, France, and Slovenia. So I do believe that from Senegal we have the ambassador, Corey Sek. Is he here? So would you be so kind now, we won't go to the podium. Would you please, this is a microphone, please. A microphone. And then standing by a representative from Spain, from France, and then from Slovenia, and see how we go.
Merci, Monsieur le Modérateur. Je serai très bref. Je voudrais remercier le gouvernement suisse et le Geneva Water d'avoir entrepris cette initiative. Le Sénégal a fait partie des co-initiateurs de ce projet depuis le début et nous avons accueilli à Dakar les 5 et 6 avril 2016 la deuxième réunion du forum qui a abouti à la mise en place du groupe des amis du panel. Et nous sommes très fiers également d'avoir introduit la question de l'eau et de la paix et de la sécurité pour la première fois au Conseil de sécurité, qui s'est saisi maintenant de cette question, et nous comptons sur l'appui de tous les partenaires ici pour poursuivre à faire en sorte que cette question demeure au sein du Conseil de sécurité. Le Sénégal va continuer à partager son expérience dans la gestion des cours d'eau transfrontières, notamment avec les situations positives que nous vivons au sein de l'OMVS et de l'OMVG. Je voudrais enfin vous dire que le Sénégal va accueillir le 9e Forum mondial de l'eau en 2021 et nous invitons toute la communauté internationale à venir y participer. Et le thème sera la coopération autour des bassins frontaliers pour la promotion de la paix et de la sécurité dans le monde. Je vous remercie.
Spain. Spain. Name and title, please.
Thank you very much. My name is Pablo Nuño. I'm the first counselor at the Spanish mission. Excellencies, Mr. Panelists, Mr. Danilo, thank you very much for such a magnificent work you've been carrying out these years. I have been paying heed to the recommendations that are included in the report, and I've been going through the summary as presented today. And I have to confess that our foreign policy has been following such recommendations during the past 20 years. Somebody spoke about the international law. My country has been promoting the human rights to water and sanitation here at the UN. Somebody talked about the financing and the funding. In terms of the cooperation aid, my country has got a water fund, and it's one of the pillars of our cooperation aid. You also mentioned regional cooperation, and we are fond that we fostered cooperation in the Western Mediterranean through the means of the 5+5 initiative, and we held several technical expert meetings in Algiers and Alicante. So this is a very comprehensive report that takes into account all the components, and we are glad that we have got such a report and such a document. And you can count on my own country to push forward this water and peace agenda in the years to come. Thank you very much.
France, please. France? Okay, we move on. Slovenia. Yes, Slovenia.
Excellencies, Mr. Minister, distinguished panelists, as a representative of one of the co-convening states, Slovenia, I am proud and glad that this panel has produced such an analytical and action-oriented report, and we are looking forward to implement it in the future. Slovenia is a Danube river basin state, and we are also coastal state in the Mediterranean, and we understand well what is the importance of the water resources. So this will stay very high on agenda on our foreign policy. But having the privilege now to have all your panelists here with us tonight, maybe it would be interesting to hear from you how and to what extent the water will change the geopolitical landscape in the world. If the oil created geopolitics of the past century, will the water do the same for the 21st century? And since we have already stepped well into the fourth industrial revolution, will the digital era with biotechnology and robotics brings new solutions to water and peace? And let me use this opportunity to commend the Swiss government and Geneva Water Hub for enormous work which have done for supporting the work of this panel and for organizing this wonderful evening tonight. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Sharapova, would you please ask your question now?
Thank you. How can the youth contribute to the implementation of the recommendation on local level, particularly in Central Asia, for example?
Thank you for the question. I think that the concept of the Helsinki Citizens Assembly is a concept that should be built in regional groupings, such as the stans, where you have Kyrgyzstan, which is the most abundant water country, landlocked water country in the world. I was happy to see the Organization of Islamic Conference helping in Kyrgyzstan in developing their network. There are different characteristics, as you and your colleague have said, to Tajikistan, Kyrgyzstan, Kazakhstan. And it is time that we in our region learned from you. That is to say, the Levant region, essentially Syria, Lebanon, Palestine, Jordan, Iraq, possibly Turkey, Iran, Israel, if they ever joined in a regional peace movement. Then we have, of course, the Black Sea countries, we have the V4 countries, we have the ASEAN countries. These regional groupings should develop a learning by analogy. So I would turn to the Geneva Water Hub and to the University of Geneva and say, please help us to help ourselves. You have here in Switzerland the Bodensee, shared with Austria and with Germany, and owned by the people of 300 towns. So it is this stakeholding that has to be created for young people, old people, doesn't matter what age group, to feel that they are citizens of that particular collective.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Perhaps, Mr. Solosnaj, would you add something to that, please?
Just a short thing is that prior to the 9th World Water Forum, which will be held in Senegal, as His Excellency mentioned, we will have the 8th World Water Forum next March, from the 17th to the 22nd of March in Brasilia. And there is a whole process leading there that involves the youth groups as one of the interest groups, the stakeholder groups. There is a political process that is moving on. There is a ministerial process through a series of preparatory committee meetings where the youth will have a special seat. So they will be able to contribute to the discussion and the debate. And the Brasilia Forum will be about sharing water. Therefore, your contribution from the stands would be extremely valuable, but just indicate that you would like to be a part of the process, and you will be. And if I may just add one sentence to His Excellency, the Slovenian representative, how much science can contribute to water dispute resolution. Tremendously, which I have mentioned in my short intervention about data. The same could be said about science itself. There has been a fantastic development in water science over the past 30 years. We have now models that can simulate the atmospheric, the global circulation of the whole atmosphere, including the hydrological cycle. It all depends on the parties. There's no more computational barrier. The barrier so far was data, because everybody was considering data as a property. If we can solve that, then the problem could be solved.
I want to risk the yellow card just to say that in November this year in Jordan, we're holding the World Science Forum entitled Science for Peace. And there will be a heavy emphasis on water and data during this process, so please get in touch.
Thank you very much indeed. Ladies and gentlemen, a very warm hand for my panel. Thank you. And if you'd be so kind to take your... thank you very much indeed. I think we're now moving to a part of the program which is more artistic and creative, in as much as you heard mention a symphony for water and peace. And we have a group of splendid musicians waiting to come on and perform. But as they do so, Monsieur Munger, François, est-ce qu'on peut tenir une petite conversation là-dessus? On se tient debout. Oui. Et alors, François, Monsieur Munger, première question, genèse, pourquoi cette symphonie?
Voilà, alors cette symphonie, vous avez entendu beaucoup de paroles ce soir, il y a des textes, etc. Évidemment, tout ce travail a une dimension donc de présentation, d'influence, etc. On a voulu mettre une addition à ça, mettre un effet musical, et on sait que l'art travaille autour de l'émotion, on sait que l'art permet de faire passer des idées, donc c'est vraiment l'idée d'ajouter une dimension à cette réflexion du panel Et cette composition, cette symphonie, qui a 4 mouvements, les symphonies ont 4 mouvements, est un symbole aussi du travail fait par le panel. Symphonie, c'est travailler ensemble. Donc le panel a travaillé ensemble, a donné une œuvre cohérente et harmonieuse.
Très bien. Comment, la question à poser maintenant, comment elle a été faite, cette symphonie?
Alors la symphonie, elle a été faite exactement comme le panel s'est développé. C'est-à-dire que cette symphonie a 4 mouvements et le panel a eu 4 moments forts de réflexion. Et à chaque station où le panel s'est réuni, c'est-à-dire d'abord en Suisse, ensuite au Sénégal, ensuite au Costa Rica et ensuite en Jordanie, dans chacun de ces pays, un compositeur a créé 5 minutes pour la symphonie. Chaque compositeur travaillant sur les 5 minutes du compositeur précédent et le tout donnant une symphonie de 20 minutes que l'on espère cohérente. Donc c'était aussi l'idée de trouver une cohérence avec différentes cultures, avec différents types de musique. Et certainement, quand vous écouterez la symphonie, vous vous rendrez compte des particularités locales des développements de cette symphonie.
Alors, je trouverai facilement la partie africaine.
Alors écoute,
vous en êtes sûr?
Ça tu me le diras après, il faudra écouter la symphonie.
Ouais.
Oui, j'imagine que oui.
Ok. Question, parler un peu des 4 mouvements. Qui a commencé le premier et pourquoi et comment ça s'est enchaîné?
Le premier mouvement, donc on voulait créer cette symphonie et il faut trouver après les musiciens qui sont d'accord de se lancer dans une telle entreprise. Et je longeais la rivière qui est à Berne, l'Aar, et en longeant cette rivière, on voit le bateau, il y a un bateau qui traverse la rivière avec un ferryman, un passeur. Et j'étais là avec ma femme et je dis, ah mais tiens, je connais ce passeur, c'est le fameux jazzman Mick Gerber. Et elle me dit, mais alors, tu as déjà le premier musicien pour ta symphonie. J'ai été trouver Mick Gerber, j'ai fait 3 fois la traversée avec lui et il a dit, ok, on y va, on commence, je veux bien faire le premier mouvement de cette symphonie. Donc Mick Gerber, un grand musicien et aussi un passeur sur l'art. Vous vous rappelez, Monsieur Burkhalter, dans votre premier discours, vous aviez utilisé cette image du passeur et on en est bien là, c'est-à-dire que le panel a fait ses recommandations et maintenant il faut les passer à l'action. Eh bien, c'était le premier symbole. Mick Gerber a créé la première partie, le premier mouvement qui s'appelle Voda.
Ok.
Après, il y a un second mouvement qui est par le compositeur Alun Wad, qui est un bassiste, guitariste. Il est actuellement en tournée au Japon. Et la magnifique flûtiste Naisan Jalal. Cette flûtiste a vraiment beaucoup influencé toute la symphonie, on peut dire. Et c'est une fille qui est extrêmement engagée, c'est une Syrienne, extrêmement engagée sur les questions d'eau, et bien surtout de paix et de sécurité, et on comprend. Le troisième mouvement, c'est un grand chef d'orchestre, Carlos Guzman, un chef d'orchestre bien connu au Costa Rica. Alors il a composé le mouvement et il a joué cette partie-là avec un certain nombre des musiciens de l'orchestre symphonique du Costa Rica. Et finalement, le troisième mouvement, c'est M. Tarek Younis de Jordanie. Votre Altesse, je ne sais pas si vous le connaissez, c'est un génie musical, vraiment. Il a une énorme sensibilité et il a vraiment travaillé sur cette symphonie. Il devait, en fait, reprendre les 3 premiers mouvements et essayer d'intégrer ces 3 premiers mouvements dans le dernier mouvement. Vous entendrez la paloma dedans, d'où le titre, en fait, et la fourre du CD que l'on a fait. Il a aussi fait la traduction, en fait, de cette symphonie pour les 15 musiciens qui vont venir maintenant l'interpréter.
Alors,
voilà.
tous ces musiciens repartis un peu partout dans le monde,
Ouais.
comment ils se sont retrouvés? La question production, est-ce que tout le monde s'est réuni à Genève? Qu'est-ce qui
Alors,
s'est passé en fait?
Ouais, ça,
Parle production.
Alors, la partie de production, une telle entreprise ne peut pas se faire comme ça simplement. Il fallait trouver encore un producteur, un spécialiste qui nous aide là-dedans. Et on a eu la chance de tomber sur un label de musique qui s'appelle Milk Music, qu'on a rencontré par hasard. Hein. Mais préférerais qu'il vienne lui-même, David Carroll vienne lui-même nous expliquer tous les travaux faits pour réaliser cette symphonie. Je peux dire qu'avec David, on l'a appelé par téléphone et très rapidement, il a compris ce que l'on voulait, est devenu un spécialiste des questions d'eau et puis aussi a fait un excellent travail qui nous a permis maintenant de réaliser ce travail.
On l'applaudisse alors. OK. I like the hat.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Merci, ça a été un plaisir de vous accompagner sur ce très beau projet. Notre mission s'est étalée du coup sur un peu plus d'1 an et demi, a consisté d'abord à vous accompagner sur le choix des musiciens. Alors Mick, vous l'avez rencontré sur le ferry. Les autres, il a fallu qu'on explore un peu nos réseaux musicaux internationaux. Aloun Ouad, qui donc un grand musicien sénégalais qui passe beaucoup de temps en France. Nous sommes basés également en France, donc on a pu le faire venir dans nos studios à Bordeaux pendant 3 jours pour l'enregistrement du 2e mouvement. Et pour les autres compositeurs, ça a été grâce aux technologies modernes avec lesquelles on travaille aujourd'hui, on a pu travailler à distance et soigner un peu l'empreinte carbone de ce projet, et éviter des déplacements à l'autre bout du monde. Pour le Costa Rica et la Jordanie, donc les 2 compositeurs ont esquissé leur composition chez eux, nous ont envoyé des fichiers informatiques et nous ensuite on a travaillé avec notre équipe de musiciens que vous allez découvrir d'ici peu pour enregistrer la trame rythmique et ensuite eux de leur côté ont réenregistré des parties et en Jordanie et au Costa Rica qui nous ont renvoyé et notre rôle depuis notre ville d'eau qui est Bordeaux a été d'assurer la coordination de tout ça, la cohérence en termes de son et en termes artistiques également pour arriver à quelque chose qui fasse un tout cohérent dans un projet de coopération internationale. La cohérence, vous le savez tous, c'est toujours un vrai défi. Donc voilà, ça a été notre mission. Et on est très content d'être là pour ce qui est l'aboutissement de ce travail.
Je me pose la question, étant donné qu'ils sont tellement célèbres, est-ce que maintenant ils sont riches? Ils ont gagné beaucoup de sous là-dessous? Ou est-ce qu'ils ont fait gratuitement?
Ils sont riches d'une belle expérience, oui.
Ah bon? Mais question argent, comment est-ce qu'on les a payés? Ça m'intéresse toujours.
Ils ont été payés pour leur contribution de manière symbolique, mais correcte pour leur travail. Pas de manière pharaonique, mais de manière honnête.
Ouais.
Tu es poli, ils ont été indemnisés. Okay. Et franchement, ça n'a rien à voir avec un salaire et surtout rien à voir avec leur talent.
Ok, vous avez parlé CD. Comment est-ce qu'on peut l'avoir, ce CD? À quel prix?
Voilà.
Ici, maintenant?
Oui, alors le CD, vous pouvez l'acquérir à la sortie pour un prix de base de 5 francs. Donc il y a la symphonie sur la première partie et après, en deuxième partie, plus compliqué encore, chaque musicien joue, chaque partie joue sur l'autre partie, c'est-à-dire les superpositions d'un mouvement sur un autre. Ce qui donne encore... Ouais, peut-être.
Oui, pour agrémenter un peu la symphonie, qui est une suite de 20 minutes de musique, pour faire un CD qui fasse une durée d'un vrai CD. Ce qu'on a proposé de faire, c'est des remixes collaboratifs, en fait, où chaque compositeur prenait des pistes d'un autre mouvement et y rajoutait son grain de sel. Donc on a les 4 mouvements de la symphonie et ces 4 relectures de chaque mouvement par un autre des compositeurs.
Messieurs, est-ce qu'ils sont tous là en ce moment? On a parlé Mick Gerber qui est toujours sur le lac quelque part, mais est-ce que les autres sont là, le Sénégalais?
Non.
Sinon l'orchestre, c'est qui pour ce soir?
Alors, on n'a aucun des musiciens, aucun des compositeurs avec nous, parce qu'ils sont tous en tournée ou en concert actuellement. Donc, cet orchestre qui est là était formé pour la première fois et pour jouer cette symphonie. Et ça, c'est encore une première mondiale. Donc ce soir, on a eu la première mondiale pour les résolutions du panel et les propositions du panel. En première mondiale, cet orchestre, et en première mondiale, la symphonie.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you could possibly bear to hear me make 3 last announcements. One is, would the journalists here present stay behind? And with the indulgence of my panelists, would you please also remain seated in case there are some questions to be put to you from the journalistic fraternity? There is a cocktail at which I shall be giving my card and invitation to Kenya. Upstairs. A cocktail. Climb up the stairs. Wonderful cocktail. Nice time to meet and greet and network. And before I invite Mr. Turk to have our closing remarks, there's always something in our job where we've got to have full audience participation. We get lots of brownie points for that. And we're going to achieve that by taking a picture. So my friend Sebastian, if you would, I crave your indulgence. We're going to pretend, the world is full of pretense, we've got to take ourselves back to our childhood and pretend, first of all, that we are seated and rapturously applauding something that we've just seen. So at the cue, you've just got to go wild, I guess. Sebastian, are you ready? 1, 2, 3. Right, done. Now, of course, there's the standing ovation at the end. Please stand. Wait a minute, on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3.
The lower water point.
Mr. Turk, if you would, and just to, as you go up on stage, please, the cocktail, everything that's on offer as food, has a low water food print. That is food that doesn't take enormous amounts of water to grow. So I know avocados are good for your skin and are highly recommended, but there'll be no avocados because they have a high water footprint. So, sort of get used to it. Danilo.
Thank you. Well, I hope that the standing ovation will come after my speech. Anyway, you are welcome to repeat it if you feel I deserve it. On a more serious note, I would like to say thank you very much for being with us this evening. Thank you for supporting us. And thank you for having witnessed the combination of our work as the usual panel and the artistic expression. I'm very happy that François Munger finally had his moment when his beloved symphony was played to a big audience. So, François, thank you and congratulations for your work. Now, on substance, only one point. Music and art express the idea of our common humanity much better than written words. And therefore, I'm very happy as panel chairman that we had this musical component, because it really adds to our message. Our message would remain within the limits of spoken and written word, but now we have a musical expression, and that gives us a very special dimension of our common humanity, common dignity, our commitment to work for common good. And in this spirit, I would like to thank you once again. I would like to conclude my remarks, and now if you want to have a standing ovation, please go ahead. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. I thank the panel. You were wonderful. I thank everybody who came. You are wonderful. Thank you very much.